and welcome back to the movies made us do it. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I am pretty good, sir. How are you?
I'm good, yeah, I'm good. Seen some good things. It's been nice. It's
Yeah.
been a nice time. Do you know what I was thinking the other day? I was... earlier this year, I was like, this year's not that great for movies, actually. And then The Northman came along, and I was like, well, that's film of the year by a long stretch. And then I was like, Men came along, and I was like, I spoke too soon. Men's really good. And now, obviously, today's one of the movies today. I was like, oh my god! And I'm like, now, and Top Gun Maverick, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna have a solid top 5 by the end of this year.
To be fair, it's so far has been better than last year.
For sure. Last year, if I remember rightly, I can't even remember what was in my top 5 last year, but I remember I really struggled. I was struggling to find them. This year, I'm like, no, I've got 5 already. So
I had a series in mind, so
yes, yeah. Well, there you go. And now it's like, hey, I reckon this year I've got some solid. I might have to take some out and put some in from a top 5, which is a lovely place to be.
Yeah.
So it's getting good. It's getting good.
It is, and we're only sort of halfway through so far, so it's still chance to be impressed with more things.
Oh, I'm totally happy with that. That's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to get to the end of the year and be like, oh no, I've got to choose my top 5.
Yeah.
Which ones am I going to go for? Anyway, where do you want to start?
Well, we might as well start with the big one then, I suppose, haven't we?
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Matt, unfortunately, lacks the perspective of having watched fucking Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. But my god, the difference in writing between these two is like a night and day. I adore this film.
Yep.
This film is fantastic.
It's directed by, it says Daniels, which is, so it's Daniel Kwan and Daniel Schnert. And they previously did a movie that I still haven't got around to watching. It's on my list, which is Swiss Army Man.
Oh yeah, that looked really interesting. I never got to see that.
That kind of makes sense from what I know of that movie. That kind of makes sense to where this movie came from. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
So we've got Michelle Yeoh, we've got Stephanie Sue, and Kei Hei Kwan. And of course, the great James Hong. Oh, and Jamie Lee Curtis.
I didn't even know Jamie Lee Curtis was in it.
I did.
I had no idea, and then she turned up, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And she is amazing in this. She's really fantastic.
So we've got Michelle Yeoh, who's playing Evelyn Wong, who is
adorable.
She is adorable.
She's totally adorable.
She's also very scary because she's one of those tiger moms, isn't she?
Yeah.
So it's a sort of classic Asian mom. I
love the scene when she's like clearly wants to tell her daughter that she loves her, and she's just like, "You're fat.
You're fat. You're fat."
Oh god.
So they're running her family runs a laundrette, and they're being audited.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
Yeah, and she's clearly unhappy with the way her life has gone. Her husband is clearly unhappy with the way things are going as well, because he's about to serve divorce papers to her. Her daughter and her girlfriend are she's trying to assert herself to her mother, but her mother's father is there visiting from China, and she says, he's an older generation. He doesn't understand about that sort of thing, so you don't say anything, and it's all getting on top of her. And they go to, you see something in the background where something clearly
the security cameras.
Something clearly happened with the dad, and then later on when they're at the audit office, the dad changes and becomes another version of the dad from another dimension.
Yes.
And says that, there's a bad guy coming, and you're the last hope for the universes. And of course, she doesn't believe it at first, but then she gets this flash.
That whole scene, by the way, the whole scene between the other dimension and the audit office is hilarious. Yeah. Like the whole back and forth is incredible.
It's so well done,
so well directed. Oh god.
So the basic plot line is could possibly this be the savior of the multiverses.
Yeah.
And there's a bad guy, and there are other
trying to skirt around and not spoil things.
Yeah, there were thing. Basically, they've discovered this. They've discovered that they can access skills from other versions of themselves, but they have to do it in this probability.
Yeah, they have to do something that's like completely against probability to sort of shift themselves out of their current reality.
Yeah,
and
access their other skills, which again reminded me of a number of things. I don't know whether you we're going back to 89 now. I think 80s, late 80s. There was a 2000 AD story called Universal Soldier, which had nothing to do with the
God, that's ringing a vague bell.
But it was a guy who had this I can't remember if it's a chip in his head or something, but it enables him to access skills from from history and stuff, and that did remind me of that slightly. And of course, you've got this, the Jet Li movie, and there are many movies that it reminds you of. What
there's
so well constructed.
Oh my god, the direction is unbelievable. I mean, it helps that every actor in this movie is amazing.
I mean, Kei Kwan, who hasn't been in a major movie for like 20 years, you just you close your eyes and his voice it's just Data or Short Round. It's like his voice hasn't changed at all.
No, he's still got that very soft. He is great.
He is just amazing. There's the scene when he first accesses his other self and he's doing this kung fu thing with a bum bag was absolutely amazing. It's so good, and it was so Jackie Chan.
Yes, I was going to say it very much reminded me of Jackie Chan.
I heard that when they initially wrote this thing, they wanted to pitch it to Jackie Chan.
I could totally see that.
And then at some point they decided maybe it would be better from the female perspective. So who better than Michelle Yeoh, who has worked with Chan, on Police 3 and that. Who better than Michelle Yeoh, who's amazing? She's still physical. She's still, and I'm sure I don't think she did all of her stunts here because I think there was a lot of hair hiding and stuff like that. Which
Yeah, I mean she's getting on a bit now as well. I mean, I don't know how much she's
she's
I mean, to be throwing yourself around like she does in some of these scenes is like
so amazing. Just one of the things I loved about it is it does this amazing thing of where it slips between the worlds and things like that.
Yeah,
you find yourself like in real sort of real teary moments.
I was gonna say
so a split second later you'll be laughing and you're trying.
I know it runs the whole gambit of emotions. It's incredible.
And being tragic and funny and scary at this in a very short period of time.
It succeeds at all of them masterfully.
Yes.
In every time it tries to get an emotion from me, it got the intended emotion. Yep. It's incredibly well constructed.
Yeah, I mean there are bits where you sat there and you're thinking, oh god, this is so tragic, and then something will happen and you're like, oh, should I be laughing at that?
Yeah.
That was funny. That was and that that is appropriate that I'm laughing at that, right?
yeah, I think it is. It's. I mean, it runs the gambit of the multiverse, and I guess you see, very different things happening.
Even, I mean, it's in the trailer, so you see the sausage fingers.
That I saw it in the trailer, and I still laughed out loud when it happened.
Yep. I mean, because it goes even further than
yes, yeah.
It's the things that happen with the sausage finger people is just so ludicrously bizarre and funny.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
And the when there's a great sequence with two rocks, and that's all I'll say about the rocks is just the sequences with the rocks Oh my word, they're just so good. And Stephanie Sue, who who I've seen previously in Mrs. Maisel. She's been in the last two seasons of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Mm.
She's amazing. She is so good, and I'm trying to skirt around it, but the stuff that she does is brilliant, and the production design. I mean, the costume designers alone must have had a field day with stuff that they do and they use, and
Yeah.
everybody is clearly having a ball. I mean, I'm not sure some they knew what they were doing sometimes, whether they were completely unaware of what was going on, but they look like they're having a ball. They look. I mean, even James Hong gets to do some amazing, brilliant things, which you probably don't expect from James Hong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so well done, and Jamie Lee Curtis is this horrible. Well, which the thing is, she's set up as a horrible sort of ogre who works at the audit office, but you get little glimpses of her life and things, and what's happened to her, and you just sort of you warm to her, but you also get the other universes versions of her that sort of pop in, and they're just like almost hulking monsters.
Yeah.
The scenes where they're trying to access memories and the ridiculous things they have to do, like where she has to tell her I love you.
Yeah, she's like I'm not doing that, and it's like, well, it's either that or you need to have a nap or break your arm. And do you feel tired right now? Like,
it's just amazing. It's on everything about it is just great. I honestly can't think of a bad thing to say about it.
I honestly don't have anything negative to say about this film. Every performance is great. The direction is great. It's incredibly well written.
Yep.
It's like at once very complex and also very easy to understand.
Yeah.
It's oh god, I loved this film. It's fantastic.
And again, it's another one of those movies that has all these massive, huge ideas, but at its core, it's a family movie.
Absolutely, absolutely, it is.
And I don't think. I mean, we've said that about a number of movies where it's like, oh, it's this thing, and then it turns into a family drama, and you just go, oh god, this doesn't do that. It's one of those ones that works really well with it because it goes beyond that sort of thing to make it universal for everybody, because it is universal for everybody. It's all about these things, these great big ideas, but it's also about simple things like, well, let's not spoil it.
I'm trying not to spoil it. That's why I'm trying to not say too much about it. Other than you have to see this film.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I think, and maybe it isn't for everybody because it's weird.
It's pretty out there. Yeah,
it is completely out there, but
it's right up our street. So
yes, I mean it feels like it's completely written for me. It's just so good, so brilliant. I mean, you've got nods to also the amount of nods to different films and different genres and different things is amazing, and they all fit so perfectly. I mean, one of the most surprising ones, which I'm not going to spoil, is a reference to a cartoon movie, which I'm not going to spoil, but wow, when that happened, I was like, okay, we're going here too as well. Okay. Because they even make a joke about it in one point, and then it turns out to be real, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, fair enough. If you're willing to do that, then you're willing to do anything in this movie. I'm completely on board, and I think that's the only thing that would probably prevent you from enjoying the movie, is if you're just not on board with the concept.
Yeah.
If the idea of multiverse jumping and all that sort of stuff is not for you, then yeah, this movie is not for you. But I think there's enough in this movie to, even to warm even the most sort of, jaded and non-sci-fi person.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I think it's probably going to be my movie of the year.
Honestly, right now it's between this and Men.
Mm.
But I think this might be winning. It's hard to say because I only watched this like yesterday,
Mm.
so I'm kind of like maybe I'll like calm down about it in like a few days. But like right now, I'm like, wow, this is
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it's oh man, it's so
I,
good.
I'm definitely going to watch it again before the end of the year. I'm sure. I'm sure I'll buy it when it comes out. So
Yeah,
but yeah, it's such a solidly made, brilliantly written, amazingly acted movie. It's just fantastic. It's genuinely a brilliant movie.
yeah, I couldn't put it better myself. It's a fantastic film. So, I watched as well a film called Press Play this week. It's like a romantic drama directed by Greg Bjorkman. Not sure what else they've done.
They did visual effects for The Fault in Our Stars.
Okay. But yeah, so it stars Claire Ruggard, Lewis Pullman, and Danny Glover. Forget the other cast members. And it's an interesting film. I would say it's just average. I didn't hate it. I didn't particularly vibe with it. Like it's fine. It's really nice in places, and then in other places it kind of doesn't work so well. I like the sentiment and the overall story. So effectively it follows Laura and her friend, her very close friend, Chloe. That's her name. I was trying to think of her name. She introduces her to her stepbrother, called Harrison, and they meet at this record store called the Lost and Found, and run by Danny Glover. I think what his character name is just Danny Glover, because I can't think of his name.
Says Cooper on here.
Cooper, well done. There we go. I was just going to call him Danny Glover. I'm like, fine, his name is just Danny Glover. Yes, run by Cooper. And the whole, or part of the gimmick of this record store is that they put when people have house clearances or they're selling, they go through their loft to look for things to sell, like old records and stuff, they come across their mixtapes. And Cooper thought it would be a cool idea to put the mixtapes up on the wall, so that if someone wants to find their mixtape, he's like, well, there's a better chance of someone finding their mixtape on our wall than in the bin, basically. So he's like, we put them all on the wall, and it's quite a nice idea. It's quite a cool visual.
Cool. I like that.
They've got all the old mixtapes that they found up on the wall, and that's why it's called the Lost and Found. So anyway, she falls in love with Harrison. Harrison falls in love with her, and it's like, almost love at first sight, and it's like he is the love of her life, and they spend some wonderful times together, and he ends up dying. He ends up getting killed in a car accident. She's obviously completely heartbroken, and ends up taking the mixtape that they made together into the Lost and Found, puts it up on the wall, and sometime later, I think it's at the funeral actually, Danny Glover, Cooper, comes up to her and he gives her back the mixtape, and he's like, look, I saw you were going to put this up on the wall. I think you should keep it, because one day you might feel that you need it. Like, not right now, but maybe once you're through the grieving process, maybe this will bring some joy and give you good memories instead of all the pain that you're feeling right now. So years and years pass. She was an art student, and she's given up art. She's given up most things in her life. She's just sleeping with random people, but refusing to commit to any relationship because her one love is dead, basically. There's a scene where she wakes up in bed with this guy and just walks out the house, and he's like, will you call me? And she's like, no, just don't care. Like, she's like, I literally don't care. Like, that's, she's just, she's never got over the loss of Harrison. But anyway, she's going through her stuff and she finds the tape, and she decides she's going to play it. and she plays the first song, and as soon as she plays it, she is transported back in time to the moment that they first heard that song together. And she quickly comes to realize that she can play through the tape, and every time they reach there's a song that they listen to together, she's teleported to the first time they listened to that song together.
Right.
But, you know, in a kind of weird Twilight Zone-y thing, she can't rewind the tape, so the tape is running out. So basically she has this many chances, and what she does is she tries to use those chances to change the future. By every time she plays the tape, she goes back to a point in time, and she tries to warn him, and tries to change and alter future history, so that when she comes back to the present, she can be with Harrison again. But obviously time's running out, and it takes a while, because at first, so basically she inhabits her own body, so when she goes back, she acts like a crazy person talking about the future, and then snaps back, and when she snaps back, the girl in the past has no memory of what she's just been saying, so it's almost like she's having like an episode or something.
Does she have like the length of the song to do it then?
Yes.
Right, okay.
So she has the length of the song. And it's an interesting concept, and I like kind of Twilight Zone-y weird things. I'm like, I don't need an explanation for this, it's just a weird thing that's happening. And
so I guess she's hoping to think for, like, you know, Led Zeppelin songs and...
Yeah. What you're...
Right with the Ancient Mariner.
Totally.
Something really long.
You need some real prog rock here.
yeah. Anything by Yes.
Yeah, you need, like... fucking Manowar Achilles. That's like 30 minutes there.
Yeah,
you got
yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, but unfortunately not. It's kind of like indie-ish songs, so they're 2-3 minutes, and then you snap back. Look, I like the concept. I like a lot of the film as a whole. I think that the music on the soundtrack is fine and works on the mixtape. Sorry.
Right.
I find some of the soundtrack a bit at odds with the film, though. Like, some of the music sounds goofy when I think it shouldn't be.
Is it like goofy comedy music?
Yes, it's like goofy comedy music, but like she's lost the tape that takes her back to her dead. But it's weird. It's like, I don't think this music is really suited to this scene.
Okay.
It's kind of almost like you're trying to play it for laughs, but it's clearly not played for laughs, because she's trying to find the tape of her, that can take her back. Because obviously when she changes the future, things change. So sometimes the tape's not where it was, and, things have moved around.
Okay.
But it's kind of, it's similar in some ways to like the butterfly effect, where she kind of messes things up more as she tries to change things and all of that kind of stuff. It's a lot more lighthearted than butterfly effect, though.
I should hope so
not
too. That's
quite as miserable as butterfly
really
effect.
Horrific stuff in it.
I absolutely love the butterfly effect.
I think I like that movie, actually.
It's the only Ashton Kutcher film I think I like. But it is fucking depressing. It's so depressing.
I quite like The Ranch.
Oh no, The Ranch is alright, actually. Yeah,
I mean, and I like that 70s show years ago.
Oh sure, the TV show. Yeah. I meant like movie wise. I
can't think of many movies.
But I love the butterfly effect, but it is damn depressing.
What's in Vegas? Is that one with Cameron Diaz?
I can't remember.
That had some funny moments, if I remember right.
But yeah, so it's not as dark as that. And I didn't mind it.
More like the About Time then, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's more of a light-hearted kind of romance with tragedy, obviously, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I just kind of, sometimes when you watch a movie and you're like, this is fine.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was at. There's a lot of logic holes and a lot of like, but you are talking about a fantasy where someone takes a tape and plays it and it takes it back. It's like, okay, it's just fine. I can accept that. It's fine. It's fine.
I think there's a certain amount of leeway you can give time travel movies if it's a sort of romantic comedy type
and I liked the premise. It's very romantic. It's very Twilight Zoney to an extent, where it's kind of just a weird thing. We're never going to explain how it works. It's just a weird thing. I liked it, but I wouldn't. I'd probably never watch it again, and it didn't really make much of an impression other than I was watching it and I was just like, this is fine.
Right.
It's not bad. It's certainly, if you want something to watch for an hour or so, a couple of hours, it's completely harmless. So I think the trouble is I watched it the same week as I watched Everything Everywhere. and I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, one film blew me away and the other film I was like, okay, this is fine. But yeah, so press play. Recommend if you fancy something a bit more kind of chill.
That sounds like I'd probably give that a go.
I thought you would have. I was surprised.
Travel movies.
Yeah, I like time travel. That's why I watched it.
There's a new version of The Time Traveler's Wife out that I haven't seen, which
now I really like the book of The Time Traveler's Wife.
I love the book.
So
I did enjoy the movie. I think the movie's got some nice moments.
It's got some nice moments. I'd like to see a reimagining though, so I'm down with that.
Yeah, I might have to give the series a go at some point.
Yeah,
because they haven't altered it too much.
Yeah,
yeah.
A girl at my old gym gave me that book, or let me borrow that book. She was like so passionate about it. When someone's like so passionate about a book, and I like, she used to work on the reception. I barely knew her, and she was like, she kept mentioning it, and then she was like, "You need to just borrow it." I was like, "Okay." And yeah, it is a really good book. I was like, okay, I can see why you're handing this to customers and forcing it on them. Because it is that good. Yeah, I'm all for a reimagining.
See, that's got some really good stuff about the questioning whether the very act of the time travel thing on the older people and the younger person.
Yes.
Whether they had any choice in certain things.
Yes. Absolutely.
I like that a lot.
I do as well. I love all that stuff. It's good. But yeah, so press play. What else have you watched, Matt?
So I saw Spiderhead.
Yes, this is the other Chris Hemsworth movie that's out.
Yes. Also, the other Joseph Kosinski movie that's out.
Oh yeah, of course.
So Joseph Kosinski, who is director of Top Gun at the moment, and previously had done Oblivion and Tron Legacy. So it's based on a short story by, I think it's George Saunders, who I've never read any of, but it's set in a slightly in the future, and it's a facility in, I think it's Australia. It's Australia, which looks beautiful actually. And it's run by Chris Hemsworth's Steve, who is this sort of entrepreneurial sort of rich guy who basically.
I was just going to say, I'm looking at the thumbnail that I downloaded for this movie because I've not watched it. But have you noticed that rich entrepreneurs always seem to have like some like ludicrous spiral staircase that makes no sense? Or it doesn't make any. It does not. It doesn't make sense, but it's just that it's always like some really.
Is it supposed to,
it's like wealth, I guess.
Imply twisted.
Yeah, maybe.
Something.
Yeah, I just see it a lot.
So this facility, it's for prison, sort of voluntary for prisoners.
Okay.
So people who prisoners have volunteered to go to this place, and they get their own room. They get to wander around this facility, but the downside of this is that they basically get these drugs administered to them.
Right.
Which, there are ones. I can't remember what they're bloody called now. It's something like Love All or something, which basically makes them incredibly horny, and just do it there with the person that they're in the room with.
Right.
Or there's this one which makes them, I think it's verbose. It makes them talk about, describe how they're feeling better and all that sort of stuff. And there's another one that is like really trippy, and they take it out Miles Teller's character out in he's looking at well, it's obvious he's not looking at what he's describing.
Mm-hmm.
He's describing beauty and lovely things, and he's looking at some sort of like factory facility sort of thing.
Right.
So they've got these they're all criminals. So they've all done stuff. So you learn that he was in a he drank drive and he killed his friend.
Okay.
So that's Miles Teller's character, Jeff, and you've got Journey Smollett, who plays Lizzie, and she's another inmate that he's kind of he's having feelings for.
Okay.
And you've got another character called Verlaine. I think they call him Mark. I think it's Mark most of the time. So he's working with Hemsworth's Steve, but he's beginning to question, I think, the morality of what they're doing, because Hemsworth is clearly a bit dubious of, what he's doing. And as the movie goes on, it's obviously, these are let's say these drugs aren't necessarily for the betterment of man as he's claiming they are.
Yeah.
And Miles Teller's character is beginning to suspect that there is more to this. So for the majority of it feels very much like a sort of a Black Mirror episode.
Okay.
Black Mirror light, I would say.
Sure. Sure.
I think it may be difficult for some people to accept Chris Hemsworth as a scientist, but I think he does a pretty good job of. He's sufficiently creepy at times when he's getting what
they
he
did.
wants.
They gave him glasses.
Yes,
which,
exactly.
That goes a long way.
He's built like a brick shithouse. He's got glasses, so he must be a scientist.
I was trying to think of the most ridiculous actor or actress that they've ever tried to pass off as a scientist. And I was.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's loads of really ridiculous ones.
Yeah, there are, and I just can't think of any right now. But yeah, I don't know. Chris Hemsworth's a pretty good actor. I feel like he might be able to pull it off.
He actually does creepy pretty well, and there are some moments where he's genuinely, he's getting his way and he's twisting things around, and he's
clearly loving it.
Works. Miles Teller's great.
Miles Teller is. When is Miles Teller not great?
Yeah, I'm yet to see Miles Teller put in a bad performance.
Even in a really shit film, he's great.
Yeah,
Smollett's
pretty good as well. She's
cool.
She does well in what she has to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to spoil it too much. It's okay. It starts off pretty well. It kind of peters out towards the end, and it doesn't feel like it completely commits to the horror of it. I think if it towards the end it gets a little not
pantomime-y.
Kind of, yeah, a little. It
like leans into campiness a little, does it? Or
I wouldn't, maybe not quite as far as campiness, but it does. It's there are sort of
you feel like it was going somewhere dark and it didn't quite.
Yeah, I think maybe I was just thinking, oh, this should have gone much darker. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a thing.
I've seen quite a few films like that where you kind of think, this would have been great if you just committed. Just committed.
And the thing is that there are some dark stuff in it. There's again, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's certain things are in it that are like, oh, Jesus, okay, that's pretty horrible. But I don't know. By the end, it just feels like they sort of didn't really want to run with that. They didn't want to sort of make it too dark.
Okay.
It's an okay movie. It's not brilliant, but it was enjoyable enough. And like I said, the performances are all really good, and it was directed pretty well for the most part. It was just slightly disappointing. I think is the overall sort of feeling I got. It's not bad. It's just okay.
Sure.
It was enjoyable enough. I think if you
That's
again,
two films in a row that have been just fine.
Yeah, if you just sort of go with it. And again, like I said, the performances themselves are really, really good. I really enjoyed, and Chris Hemsworth is clearly having a ball with some of his stuff he's doing. So yeah, it's kind of worth it for that. So yeah, I'd say if you were in the mood for some, like I said, Black Mirror light, then
sure.
Yeah, this is give it a go.
Sounds great. Well, I haven't seen any other film, but I have been watching the Orville New Horizons.
Okay.
And I'm now
behind on the Orville.
You need to catch up.
Sure.
I am on episode 5 now. I think episode 5 came out yesterday. Watched it yesterday evening.
Ready, by me.
Yeah, they're not hanging about. I think I don't know. I have a feeling they might have released a couple to begin with straight off the bat. Did that weird thing that places that these streaming sites sometimes decide to do, where they're like, "We'll just release 2 at once."
So, yeah.
I thought the trailer was horribly misleading for this season because it just made it look like it was going to be a nonsense action fest. But it's not. It's not. Thank goodness. This show is so well written and is putting. Now I haven't seen Strange New Worlds, and I am hearing pretty good things about Strange New Worlds, but certainly from Discovery to Picard, modern Star Trek, the Orville is putting it to shame. Season 1 of the Orville, I must admit, I found a bit rocky for me. Like it was trying to be, it leaned too much on the comedy for me, and also leaned a bit too heavily into pre-existing Star Trek storylines. It was like, okay, it's this episode of TNG with the Orville crew, and that's kind of off-putting. Season 2, I think it really found its feet, and this New Horizons is incredible. This show so far has dealt with themes of suicide, body horror, insurrection, gender swapping, and changing. And it has dealt with them all incredibly well.
That sounds like all things that I've heard Strange New Worlds dealing with at the moment.
Oh, really? Well, that'll be an interesting comparison because the Orville is doing every single one of them incredibly well. The suicide episode I did not see coming, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. I'm not sure how much of the Orville you've seen.
I saw the first. I've seen the first season, and I've seen bits of the second season. So about the war with the what are they called? The robot-y race.
The robot-y boys. So Topa, the Mocklin child of Bortus and his partner, their race sees females as
an abomination.
An abomination, yeah. So spoilers for early on in the Orville. Topa, born female, and they forcibly changed her gender to male. And we catch up with Topa in the latest episode, and Topa now is I don't know what age as an alien, but is of an age where he's come to realize that he's not in the right body. He's like, I don't feel right in this body. I feel that I should be female. And obviously the Mocklins have you have this kind of debate between the two parents, and one of them's taking one thing, one side, the other's taking the other side. It's all the things that I think a lot of shows in recently, have wanted to talk about. They want to talk about social issues, politics, gender issues, all of these things that they want to talk about and fail miserably at usually. This show is doing really well. And then on top of that, out of nowhere, it will just shock you with an episode where I was like, I started watching and I was like, this is like full-on body horror. What is going on in this episode? There was an episode, I think it was like episode 3 or something, and I was just, it seemed to be, a fun enough episode, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, this is like full-on body horror. This is amazing. I'm thoroughly enjoying the Orville so far. New Horizons is by far the best season they've done. It makes me a bit sad because I think it might be the last season they do as well, from what I've heard. I think they've decided to end it on their own terms. I think they're like, season 3 is going to be the last one. But they've certainly got a higher budget for it. I think they've probably pushed for like a lot more money for their final season, assuming it is the final one. I think Seth MacFarlane had kind of hinted that that's what they wanted to do, was that they had a story in mind and it's going to end at the end of season 3. But I think, like I said, in season 2 I think they got the balance right, and now in season 3 it's kind of the Orville perfected, where the humor's still there. It's just not in your face all the time, because I actually went back and watched season 1 because I was enjoying season 3 so much. I was like, I might watch some of season 1, and I enjoy it kind of more now. But it is like, oh god, that humor is like all over the place. And also season 3 of the Orville they've given work to Bruce Boxleitner, and I'm all for that.
Well, that's always good.
And he's under a lot of prosthetics. It's the voice.
Really?
The voice is the giveaway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
It's good stuff. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's been a great couple of weeks with like good films and good TV. I mean, it's put me in a really good mood. Good stuff. So, anyway, what else have you watched?
So I watched the Sky's new version of the Midwich Cuckoos.
Excellent. We'll leave that other one to bitch about last.
Yeah. So it's a 7-part series starring Keely Hawes and Max Beasley, Aisling Loftus and Ukwell Roach, and it's pretty. They've changed a few things. They've obviously, as they put it, they've updated it.
Is it set modern day?
Yes. Yeah. So it's set modern day, and they've gender swapped Zellaby. Mm-hmm. So it's Zellaby's now played by Keely Hawes, and she is Dr. Susan Zellaby. She's a therapist, and she has a daughter who is. They obviously have a strained relationship. The daughter's obviously has substance abuse problems, mm-hmm. and there's obviously something going on between them that you don't know at the beginning. And then you've got Zoe and Sam, who are new to the village. Sam's the new teacher, and I think they've been trying for a child, and they come to as new people, and obviously the anybody who's read the book or seen the various film versions, everybody falls asleep in the village, and when they wake up, all of the women of childbearing age are pregnant.
Yeah.
So that so far so sort of the same sort of thing, and then obviously the children are born, and they have like a hive mind, and they can control what the parents do, and the government have got involved, and the government kind of isolates the village. That makes them all they make all the parents sign the Official Secrets Act, so they're not allowed to discuss it to the outside world, and so that's kind of how they deal with the modern technology thing. They say basically the government is preventing them from telling the outside world.
Sure.
The children, I guess they didn't want to do the white hair, silver skinny type Aryan-looking kids. So for most part, the kids are.
They didn't go full on Village of the Damned.
They're sort of they've made a sort of diverse mix of children that they haven't. They've just made them vaguely creepy.
I think in a lot of ways. I mean, I've not actually read the book.
It's a long time since.
But obviously, I'm a big fan of Village, the original Village of the Damned.
Yes,
and I don't.
George Sanders.
Was there a Chris Reeve remake of that as well?
Yeah, the 90s.
That was okay, from what I remember.
Carpenter remake.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that being okay.
I actually quite like the Carmen
Yeah.
remake. It's not as good as the original
No.
Village, but it's got
but
some nice stuff in it. I quite like.
But I kind of feel. I kind of feel like, although you make them more alien when you clearly make them white haired and all of that, I almost think kids are more creepy when they're just kids, to be honest. So I can kind of see how that would maybe work better if you didn't, and you just left them as they look like normal kids, but they're really intelligent and weird and hive mindy, you know? Because kids, I mean, to be honest with you, as a hey, each to their own. But as someone who never wants kids do creep me out a bit, to be honest, especially if there's a lot of them. So, you know.
Yeah, I think actually they do a pretty good job of making them the weird and creepy. So you don't really need the white hair and the
no, totally. And it sets this show apart from the previous iterations.
Yeah. So
are they described as having white hair and pale faces in the book? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I think in the book they've got.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like Village of the Damned. They were like, hey, let's make them look like this, even though that's not referenced in the book at all.
No, so. I think in the book they've got almost silvery skin as well. I think they're
okay.
They're quite alien. I think in the
sure. Okay, cool.
And the remake had that. One of the things I liked about the remake was when they overuse their powers, the sort of alienness comes through.
Yes.
I like that. I think that was
the kid. The kid that got to play the less evil of the kids.
The little one. The little one that played. I think he's called David.
He is fucking adorable in that Carpenter remake. Adorable. He's like the most adorable looking kid in the world.
The actress they've got to play the sort of boss.
Oh god, she's terrifying.
And it's in the original, in the '60s one, that the leader he's quite terrifying.
Yeah.
So in this version, it actually focuses more on the mothers, which is actually mostly a good thing, because you've got the sort of the female perspective, which I think is a good thing for a different look at it. What I don't like about it is it tends to lean to more melodrama, and at times it's a little soapy.
Oh, okay.
I think it's too long. I think they could have probably lost 2 episodes.
Isn't that... God, I feel that way about so many series these days.
Yeah.
Like, so often I'm like, God, you could have just lost a couple of episodes and it would have been way better for it.
There's a couple of twists that I won't... I'll say a couple of... There's one twist that I'm not going to give away, which I actually thought was interesting.
Okay.
I quite like that. I like the idea. I don't think towards the end they use it well enough. I think towards the end they seem to have lost their way on the idea of the little twist that they have. The end, I think, was a little. I think it's to do with the way it was. My wife said she found it really disappointing, and I was trying to think why it was disappointing. And I think it's. I mean, if you know the end of the book and the I think the end of the movie versions are roughly the same.
Okay.
Dr. Zelepi.
You know, it's weird. It's one of those books I always meant to read and just never have.
It's not a very long book either.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I completely understand that, because there's so many books that I've like, oh yeah, I must read that, and I've never got round to them.
Yeah.
So the overall thing of the basically Dr. Zelepi sacrifices himself to take out the kids. I think I'm not really spoiling.
No, well, I mean, if you've watched the,
so I won't say what they do in the end of this one, but I don't think they handled the tension very well. It felt like it could have been more tense. That they could have added more sort of, Oh no, I mean it's hard to say more emotion from children that aren't supposed to have emotions, but it from their point of view, it's not an issue. But there was something about the end that just felt a little disappointing. Um, I think overall it was an interesting adaptation. I think the some of the idea, like I said, the ideas of making Zellaby a woman, what I don't think was a problem. I think it was a nice idea. I Some of the conversations between her and her daughter were like, oh, they had obviously they've got to have problems. They had to have, and it was just felt a little too like, oh, this just feels so soap opera-y and unnecessary in this story. You're sort of stretching it out too much. There's sort of the relationship between, because so it's not spoiling anything to say that the daughter when the event happens, Zellaby's away. She's gone to London for the night, so she's not in the village when everybody blacks out, but her daughter is. So her daughter has a daughter. So they have that sort of three-person dynamic of daughter-daughter sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And there are some interesting things that happen within that thing, but there was also some very bad melodrama that I just didn't enjoy. I don't think it's a bad version. I just think it's a little disappointing.
Okay.
I enjoyed it enough. I would just say, to be honest, just either read the book or watch the 60s one. I think the 60s one is pretty much on the back.
My favourite version thus far.
Yeah,
but I will watch this. I
think I can actually recommend it. I think you can still get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Max Beasley is pretty good. He's the detective. The couple played by Aisling Loftus and Equal Roach. Sometimes they can be very soapy and they can be slightly annoying.
Okay.
But there are interesting things with them that are actually done quite well that will keep you with them, I think.
Cool.
So I think overall I did enjoy it, but it's not as good as it could have been. I think it definitely suffers from being too long.
Yeah.
And I think
that's a problem with a lot of series these days. It really is. Yeah,
it doesn't quite land the ending. I think
that's a shame because it is a tremendous ending. Assuming the movie ending is, you said, is similar to the book ending. I think the ending of Village of the Damned is a fantastic ending.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Matt, I think you've done all your movies except for one, right? Yeah.
I have.
So I knew this day would come. Matt has finally got desperate enough to watch the Batman. I did a review of the Batman. I said I overall I thought it was fine. I definitely had issues with it. It's been a long time now, so we could do spoilers and all that stuff.
Yes.
I knew you were gonna dislike this one more than me. I knew it. So this would be fun. Go for it.
So there are bits I like.
Yeah.
But overall, I didn't enjoy it that much.
Did you?
I found it actually long and boring.
So interestingly, when I saw it, I didn't find it boring. I have, however, felt no urge whatsoever to watch it since, and I don't know that I will. Whereas like Villeneuve's Dune, I'd watch again in a heartbeat. I'm just thinking of films of similar length that I've watched in the cinema recently.
Right. Yeah.
I don't really, and Batman in general. Generally, I quite enjoy the Batman movies, and I'll revisit them. I've not had any kind of desire to purchase this or rewatch it.
So I mean, on the good things, I thought Kravitz's Selina Kyle was good.
She was great. Yeah, really liked her.
I really liked what they did with her.
Yeah, I agree.
She was very well done. Patterson was a bit hit and miss, but I did like him overall.
I like. So I think in my review I said I like him, but only on the understanding that in coming movies he develops. Because at this stage, I'm okay with him being the Batman full time, including Bruce Wayne being Batman. Yeah. That needs to change though. Like early on, fine, but I'm hoping now he'll find a balance.
And I think this does do a very good job of setting up what I think will be a better movie next time.
Yes, I completely agree. I feel I will see the sequel because I do think it is setting up something great.
I think that's definitely true. I think I'm slightly looking forward more to the second movie because if they lean more into the Batman, and I understand, it's supposed to be year 2, which is fine. So I was kind of on board with him being a little mopey and a little.
I was fine. Yeah, I was fine.
A little emo Batman, because he's not really the Batman at this point. I actually quite like the fact that he wasn't the Batman yet. It was, he's this.
He's more of a thug.
He's vengeance.
Yeah, he's vengeance, and
which. I really.
In fact, everyone in the movie calls him Vengeance, don't they?
Yeah,
they know him as Vengeance. Yeah.
No. I really dislike the Riddler.
I thought Paul Dano did a fantastic job.
He does a tremendous job of doing an incel.
I didn't mind. I didn't mind that. Like personally, I didn't mind it. Like it's not the Riddler, but it's like okay, it's a take and fine for this universe. I just
didn't like that it was the Riddler.
Fair enough.
But yeah, his performance. I have no problem with his performance. It did get a little too jokery towards the end.
Well, so most of the issues I have with this movie are the end of the movie. Actually, like. And I've said before, I have issues with you doing a realistic Batman. Fundamentally, I don't think it works outside of a fantasy
setting. Many times that we don't.
You're the same way, right? And this one was like, I instant red flags for me was like this one was meant to be even more realistic than Chris Nolan's. I'm like, oh no, please don't, because it won't be. And then for me, the as soon as you bring in the real quote realism, I'm like, dude, you've got like literally a crazy taxi car chase in the middle of this film. Like it's like an arcade car chase on a bridge where fucking hundreds of people presumably blew up.
That for me was one of the weird things about that is, I mean, that
it was completely pointless as well.
The impact of that chase, was completely blown because everyone's shown it. All the trailers.
They did blow it in the trailers. Yeah.
When people played clips of it, they tended to play that.
It's the clip. Yeah.
So it was completely
the chicks love the car, right? So
any impact. Any impact.
Oh, it was chicks dig the car. I got the quote wrong. God damn it.
Any impact that scene had was kind of blown. But then when you get to the point where there's like 5 or 6 trucks that just blow up.
Well, and also, what is the fucking Penguin's car made out of that he fucking hits the back of a truck and the whole thing starts to... I'm like, really? Yeah. Like, I'm sure your car would just implode. I don't really...
I feel it, but I don't think it would...
And then the crazy taxi ramp jump thing was like, really? Like, this is realistic? And then things like... you tell me it's realistic, and then Batman is literally got Iron Man physics when he's walking towards people that are spraying him with machine gun fire. I'm like, Kevlar or not, you're gonna be on your ass from one gunshot, let alone
later on. When he's
later on, that comes and goes, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I actually quite liked that gangway scene. The
individual sequences I was fine with. I think for me, I felt like the movie, for me, honestly, it felt like the movie was intended to end and should have ended when the Riddler gave himself up in the cafe. They arrest him, they go back to Arkham, and then they have like some interesting discussion between the two of them. And I felt like the studio just went, no, you need an action set piece to end this fucking movie. And then they were like, oh, I guess we'll just do something retarded then.
I mean,
okay, we'll just blow up the seawalls.
The main thing I liked about that, though, is the actual thing of him helping the people.
That was cool.
Bringing them out of the water and rescuing them. That was good. I liked that because that was showing, his his shift of motivation. It's like,
yes,
I should actually be a symbol of hope here. I
could have done that on a smaller scale and before that point. I think,
But I think I quite liked that.
That was good, yeah.
I thought Jeffrey Wright's Gordon was a blank.
I really liked his Gordon, actually. I think we're
his Gordon at all.
Okay, I think we're quite opposite on that one. I really liked his Gordon, actually.
I didn't find any real personality.
Okay, that's interesting. I took that completely the other way. In fact, I think I said he was like one of the strongest like cast members.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
With Andy Serkis as well, I think his Alfred was a. I think he suffered from the fact that he didn't get an awful lot to bloody do.
Well, and he's like the detective. He's the one that solves most.
He's
of the
one
problems. They still haven't given us the Dark Knight detective because all he does is he gives the footage to Alfred, and Alfred's the detective in this one.
Yeah. I mean, we've said for years that we want a Batman detective movie, and this kind of gives you that with the Riddler stuff.
It does way more than previous ones, but it's like the scene when they're talking about the flying rat or whatever it is, and he doesn't figure out it's a bat. He's like, it must be a penguin. I'm like, what? Like, really? Like, if I was in the room with him when he said that, I would have been like, dude, really? Like, look in the mirror, really?
Say, who in the universe has ever gone, penguin? Yeah, rat with wings, right?
Yeah, but even and those are people that aren't currently wearing bat suits at the time, right? I mean, I was like world's greatest detective here.
Yeah.
Oh, and weird, I
mean, the thing is it ends up being it's not actually him anyway. It's to do with Falcone, isn't it?
Of course, yeah. But it is like it was just such a weird moment where it's like, why would you assume it's anything but you? Like as a character in that moment. I thought as well, I really love Matt Reeves as a director. Actually, I really like his work, but there's some weird framing in this movie and some weird moments. Like at the end he sneaks up on Selena Kyle, and then we cut back and he snuck up to her on a bike, on a motorbike.
I think we said,
I think I said in my review that was like
if he wheeled it down to the.
How awkward would that have looked if he was wheeling it up to her?
I guess. It'd be fine.
I mean,
that bike's fucking cool. I love that bike.
Oh, it's a cool design.
I mean, Selena's bike was cool as well, but
yeah.
And I love the Batmobile. I think this is.
It's great for a year 1, year 2 Batmobile.
Yeah,
perfect.
Really cool. I like that.
And it reminds me of the old comics because back in the day, the Batmobile was literally a car.
It's just like a sports car with a few added, isn't it? Really,
bat fins. That was it. And that's kind of what they did here. I liked it.
Yeah. See now, with the direction and the music, it felt like, how do I put this? It felt like they were trying too hard to be epic.
Okay, yeah.
And for me, it was like the original,
kind of like
the 89 music and the 80s.
Beautiful.
And then you've got the
Hans Zimmer.
The Zimmer score.
Sure. The Elfman Zimmer.
Yeah.
Recognizable.
So brilliant and so sort of genuine.
Different. Very different, but very brilliant in their own way.
But I think this one just sort of doesn't get there. I didn't like the score very much.
It feels like much like in a way Patterson's performance is very like try hard and emo and just like, oh, look how dark I am. It's like the soundtrack was doing that and it's kind of like that's too much. It's too much.
I didn't think I would say this, but it lent way too much into the Nirvana song.
Yeah, which
I thought was a very odd choice.
It is an odd choice. It's not like I love that song, but it's a really weird choice for this film, and it just kind of added to that, like, he's trying really hard to be dark kind of thing, when it almost becomes funny.
Direction was the same sort of thing. I think it felt like it was almost trying to be Nolan, you know?
Yeah. Did you also find, like, I had real issues in while watching, where, like, because he acts like Batman all the time, like the scenes with the two scenes at the club night when he turns up once as Batman, once as Bruce Wayne. I'm like, the second time when he turns up as Batman, if I was one of those bouncers, I'd be like, oh, it's Bruce Wayne. Like, clearly it's you. Like, you look exactly the same. You're talking exactly the same. You're acting exactly the same. And now you're wearing a bat suit. I get it. You're the same person. Like, it's like jarring. It's kind of like, I don't know how most people don't know who you are. You know.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Totoro was good as Falcone. I thought he was
great. Yeah.
Good. There was some nice scenes between them, and that the scene where he goes in as Bruce Wayne, I thought actually was quite a good scene.
Oh, it was a good scene. Yeah. I liked a lot of that, seeing him as Bruce Wayne, seeing him just on his bike with the helmet, just following people around, doing that stuff was great. Loved all of that.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice idea as well that they had of him traveling around the city, not as the Batman, but as just
as Bruce Wayne, or not as Bruce Wayne, just as nobody,
regular,
I guess.
Regular blogs type guy, you know, just sort of standard.
Because I always liked, what is the character that Bruce does when he's like a tramp? He's got like a tramp character, hasn't he? He's got a couple of characters that he plays alongside Batman sometimes.
I mean, it's been a long time.
I always remember it from the animated series. There are a few episodes where he does it, and he's like, hey, I'm going to be this tramp guy now. And he, I always liked that he had like kind of street level disguises to get information and stuff.
It would make sense that, you know, him just stalking around as the Batman all the time is probably not the perfect idea. And I thought that was kind of cool. I like that. But overall, I've got to say, I was very disappointed.
I kind of knew you would be, to be honest. Like, so I think like I've been friends with you long enough, and I've talked enough movies with you to know sometimes, and I got a vibe where I was like, I don't think Matt's gonna like this at all.
I didn't hate it.
Sure.
I
liked it. I think I liked it more than you, but like you said, I honestly cannot say that I have had any desire to watch it since. And at the moment,
I do think it did a good enough job that makes me think, okay, I think
I'll certainly watch the sequel.
One, it might be better.
And in fact,
might be okay.
Yeah, and in fact, that's probably when I'll watch it again. Is when the sequel's coming around. I'll be like, okay, I'll rewatch the first one now.
Yeah.
It's interesting. In a lesser year, it might have, like last year, it might have made my top 5, but it's not got a look in this year, I don't think, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Penguin was all right.
I liked the performance, actually. The thing that I was most pleased about with that was that it was a performance. Mm-hmm. I was really worried that it was all prosthetic, but no, I thought he actually put in a good performance under that as well.
Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't too bad. But yeah, I think again, like we said, it does suffer for me for that whole let's make it real and gritty and it's like, okay, you can do real, you could do
realistic. But if you're doing realistic, and then your realistic Batman takes a wingsuit off the top of a building and hits a realistic bridge with his face, he's not walking it off. I'm sorry. It was funny, but it's like, dude, you're fucked. You're not getting up from that. Realistic Batman is not getting up from that. Sorry.
I don't care what that suit's made of. He fucking hit that.
He's fucked. You've got multiple broken bones. You're fucked. Probably vertical in a bed for fucking
Yeah.
Or horizontal, sorry, in a bed for, months and months after that. I mean, it's one of those things. It's a funny scene, and again, it's like if they'd done a similar thing in Tim Burton's Batman, I would have laughed, and it would have been funny, and then I would have moved on, and I wouldn't have thought twice about it. But when you tell me you're being realistic, then I'm like, but that is ludicrous now. Like, I will accept the world you create. Yeah. But if you create a realistic world, it's like I said with the third Nolan movie, Dark Knight Rises. There's some stupid shit that happens in that movie, like plot holes, like, how does he get back, like the logic of a lot of things in that movie. I wouldn't question any of it if it was in that fantasy Batman setting. But when you tell me it's realistic, I instantly, my brain engages, and then I'm like, but now this is silly.
I think you'd accept it slightly more if it was in the Nolan movies.
Yes, I would have accepted it, because the Nolan movies are still kind of silly.
Yeah,
in that they're kind of fantastical in that way,
I guess plus Ben Affleck's Batman looks like he could take a.
Snyder's Batman. Yeah, 100% buy it. I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, sorry, what did I say?
You said Nolan.
Oh, sorry. I meant.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, Snyder's. Right. Yeah, but that's comic book Batman. At that point, I'd be like, exactly. Fine. If Affleck's Batman flew off a building and hit a bridge and it was played for laughs like that was in the movie, I'd be like, fine, no worries. Then he brushes it off, cool, because it's a fantasy, it's a fantasy world, and fine, fine with that.
One thing that I did like, which made me laugh, is because it was obviously filmed in like in England and Scotland and things. A lot of the English actors doing American was fun.
Yeah.
You got Con O'Neill and Alex Ferns and Peter McDonald, and it's so funny.
I did like, one of the things I really did like was like the thing that I've always thought, and I was like, oh, finally a film that actually addresses it, where every cop at a crime scene is like, why the fuck have you brought this absolute twat of, like, what, you brought this guy and he's wearing like a
I like that
bat
as well.
suit, like
there was one, oh man,
it's just like this cop's just like pointing out how ridiculous this is to Gordon every time he turns up. He's like, what are you doing? Like,
the cop that you kept seeing, the cop that kept that he kind of ends up like not exactly having a relationship with, but has a sort of, kind of
an understanding with,
the one with the moustache. There's the bit where he arrests the Riddler and he calls him Pencil Neck. Yeah. Oh my God, I laughed at his delivery on that.
Yeah, it was funny.
It was hilarious. Yeah. It was so bad. but yeah, I liked the way the cops...
They reacted realistically to that situation, which is like, what are you doing? Like, why is he here? Like, he looks like an idiot.
Yeah, what is this dude running around, and why does Gordon trust this lunatic?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that I like that. That was pretty well done, and some of that stuff was cool.
Did you get, so like at the end of the movie, right? I don't know. I'm not sure if it's intentional, right? I'm not sure if this. I don't think it was intentional, but at the end of the movie, there's a monologue by Bruce, and he's saying like, oh, I didn't think I could make a difference, and now I have made a difference, and all this shit. And I turned to Ben when we were watching it, and I was like, yeah, he has made a difference. He's made everything worse. Because like literally, like it turns out that the Riddler, spoilers, thought the Batman was on board the whole time. He was giving messages to the Batman because he thought the Batman was with him.
His partner. Yeah.
So it's like, dude, you caused all of this. Like, you've made a bad situation far worse. Like, the whole entire movie, like everything you've done has made things worse, not better. Well, and I wasn't sure if that was intentional, because by the end I was like, well, you just kind of made things worse, I guess.
I mean,
because on the one hand, I'm like, okay, he saved people in the stadium and stuff, but would it have escalated to that level if he hadn't thought he was working with Batman and Batman was like had his back and stuff?
I guess the good thing is that now Falcone's dead, and
yeah. the
no
new
longer
mayor is alive, and yeah.
So at least you've got that, I guess. That's
Yeah.
So he has
He's
done
done good,
and he has theoretically made himself a symbol for hope.
I think
For-
that is, to your point,
So-
one of the reasons that end part in the stadium is very important, because he has them become, that works.
And one thing that really did make me really, really happy, which is it's a tiny, minor thing, but Sandra Dickinson as Dory, his
Dory?
maid, yeah, she's the one that answers the phone in his house.
Oh yes, yeah.
I was just so happy to see Sandra Dickinson. I haven't seen Sandra Dickinson in anything for years, and she was the original Trillium in Hitchhikers, and she was. It just made me really happy to see her. I just thought that was just a tiny, stupid, minor thing that meant nothing, but it was Sandra Dickinson, brilliant. Because she really had no impact on the movie whatsoever. It was just nice to see her. Yeah, I think overall, it was fine. I suppose it was okay.
I think I liked it. It was more
It was a pretty well made movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The production values were great. I did like a lot of the the costume choices and things like that. The batsuit, for most part, I quite liked, even though I'm not overly keen on massively armored the batsuits. But it worked in this context. I didn't like the hood. I thought the hood was I didn't like the face bit was too far back. It was weird, and the ears were too far back. But that's like weird. Again, that's just like weird personal Batman preferences. Well,
and again, it's kind of something that I hope in the sequel we'll see that he's upgraded and he's
I think that's true. I did find it very disappointing. I think Patterson was fine, and Kravitz was good.
I thought she was great, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was okay. I think as a setup movie, I think it has potential. If they work on what they've built to a good enough degree, I think the second one has the potential to be actually a genuinely good movie.
I agree.
So there is that, at least. But overall, I'm not sure I will watch it again. For me, that's kind of like with the Nolan movies. I don't have any desire to see the Nolan movies again.
Yeah, fair. I've rewatched them a few times.
I have seen, the first one.
I love the first one. I think the first one's
movie.
I really like the sequel. I know you're not a fan of The Dark Knight.
No, not really.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a take. It's an interesting take on Batman, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, someone said to me the other night, they were like, because they, similarly to you, watched the Batman and they weren't a fan, and I was just saying, like, I'm kind of sick of it. I'm sick of this realistic take on Batman. I don't think it works. And he was like, yeah, we should just have like 60s Batman again. And I was like, do you know what? I would genuinely watch like a modern take on something really silly and campy.
I'm not sure I'd want to see 60s Batman again, though.
I'd be up for it.
I think.
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm getting, I don't know. I feel like this movie's pushed it as far as you can go for emo, moody, brooding Batman. Like, we've gone too far. We need some levity at least.
That's true. That is true.
Maybe 60s Batman's too much. But
I guess I don't know. I mean, maybe if you got.
I feel like the problem is, and I get it, because he is Batman 100% of the time, right?
The 60s Batman is what they want. What the Schumacher movie.
It is, and to be honest, like, that movie is awful, but it is way better once you realise that's what he was going for. You're like, oh, okay, I see what you were going for now. Like, I wasn't, when I first saw it, I didn't realise.
Completely a directive from the company.
Yeah.
Sell toys.
Make toys. But weirdly, I think they sold more toys for, like,
children.
Weirdly, I think they sold more toys for Batman Returns, which is the darkest of the
Yeah, yeah,
movies.
exactly.
Like, it's weird. But yeah, I think the problem is that he's like 100% Batman, right? And hopefully in the second one he'll develop his Bruce Wayne, which is where the levity tends to be.
Yeah.
Tends to be like, yeah, because I always think like I always love Keaton's like clueless idiot Bruce Wayne. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. You know,
he's Keaton's Bruce Wayne is really good. I actually thought Affleck's Bruce Wayne was pretty good.
yeah.
Again, he was a bit more of the. He was kind of always Batman.
Yes, he was very similarly. He was like damaged to the point of always
but
being
I think,
Batman.
Yeah, it worked slightly better with him because it felt like
he did put an act on in public, at least.
Yeah, but it felt like he was that way because, well, Robin was obviously dead.
Yes, it's a late career.
Was going really badly for him.
Always felt like, to be honest, in a better movie, Clooney would have been great. I think he really nails Bruce Wayne for sure.
I never really felt that with Clooney.
Well, I think it's a terrible script.
It's like, it's not Clooney's fault.
Yeah.
And Kilmer was, okay.
Kilmer's fine, but he is just trying to be. Moments. I mean, he's basically trying to be Keaton, really.
Yes.
In that movie, he's not really given the chance to be his own Batman.
No.
He's just like, hey, be Keaton. Continue being Keaton. And Keaton, I love Keaton. Keaton's Batman is still going to be my thing, I think. Mm-hmm. Although I will say, and I will always say, for now, Affleck is the best Batman we've ever had on screen. Maybe not the best Batman movies, but in terms of that comic book Batman, he pulls off Batman better than anyone, and he does do a pretty good Bruce Wayne. I agree. He does kind of manage it. But who knows? We'll wait for the sequel. Like you said, I do think it's setting up for a better sequel. So let's hope. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we bugger off?
The only thing that piqued my interest was strangely about I guess remakes and 60s Batman-ish, I suppose you could say. So Lee Winnell, who did The Invisible Man, he's moved off of the Wolfman movie he was doing.
Okay. I would have liked to have seen his Wolfman.
Same here. I was really hopeful for that one. He is now doing Kato and the Green Hornet and Kato.
Okay.
Which is
an
odd choice.
It's an odd choice.
Let's face it. I mean, the original Green Hornet.
Okay.
Does have that sort of campy 60s appeal.
It sure does.
Because it was kind of.
And that movie they tried to make, or did make, a decade or so ago, that tried to do that and failed.
It failed miserably.
Yeah.
That movie was
but
horrible.
they were trying to do the campiness with that, I think, and they didn't work.
I saw some stuff with Seth Rogen about the making of that movie, and it just sounds like they put so much love into it, and it just didn't come across.
That makes it so much more tragic. Like they were trying real hard. Actually, no. To be fair though, like I haven't watched it since it came out. But I do remember, like it's a bad movie, but you don't feel like they're taking the piss or anything. It's not like when you watch the Starsky and Hutch movie and you're like, that was fucking insulting.
It's not a terrible power.
You can tell they love it. Yeah, you kind of can, I think, from memory.
Yeah, it did at least have that.
It makes it way more tragic though when they've actually got a real passion for it and still failed.
Yeah, it really
it's way worse.
I think actually it was on. He was on. What's that? The FX guys.
Oh yes, Corridor Digital.
No, not them.
Yeah, well they're the effects guys that do React videos and stuff. Corridor.
That's not what they're called, is it?
Yes. Well, they might be called like they've got like 3 YouTube channels, but their Corridor Digital is the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's those guys.
I think they do the sofa reacts to VFX
Yes,
stuff.
yeah.
They're really good. I really enjoy their stuff.
Yeah, I think it was on. He was on one of them.
Oh,
doing,
okay.
They
I've
were
not
talking
seen that.
about the stuff that they were doing. It was really good, actually. I'd recommend watching that one.
I recommend watching their channel in general. Like they have at times almost made me change my mind on like visual effects I hated before, because when they're like talking about how passionate and like they're so passionate about it that I'm like, oh guys, you're kind of winning me over. Like it's still a bad effect, but you're winning me over, you know. Yeah, they're good. They had Adam Savage on recently. I saw that was really good.
Yes,
they did an interesting thing where they did Adam made a fake knife to do the
I haven't watched that one yet, but
it's really good. They tried to do that shot digitally and then he did it practically. It was quite an interesting exercise.
Is it the scene from Chinatown? Is that what they were doing?
Yeah. The Jack Nicholson. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, really, Corridor Crew, I think that's called, isn't it?
That's it, Corridor Crew. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. They're really good.
So yeah, I mean, it's a little.
It's an interesting choice. I was really looking forward to seeing his take on Wolfman because I enjoyed Invisible Man a lot.
Same. I really did like The Invisible Man. It was a really, really good movie.
It's a really good movie that on paper sounds atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, it's like, oh, he's got like a tech suit. I'm like, oh, fuck off. Like, but when you actually watch it, it's really good.
It's a really fucking good movie.
Yeah,
I think.
Loved it.
So yeah, we'll see how that goes. You know, again, Green Hornet's one of those lesser known heroes. Really,
if someone can do it justice, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think the problem you're always going to have with Green Hornet is Kato character.
Yeah. How do you cast that?
Bruce Lee's a pretty big fucking impact and a pretty big fill, you know. So it's I don't think they've said who they're choosing for Kato, but you know,
going to be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But that's kind of the only thing that piqued my interest at the moment.
Yeah. Cool. Well, what are we doing next time, Matt?
So, I thought we would do one of the Quatermass movies.
Oh, okay. Which do you want to do?
You choose which one we do.
Oh.
I like pretty much all of them. So
do I. It's interesting because a lot of people always prefer the actor with Quatermass in the Pit, don't they? They're like, oh yeah, it feels like he's better in the role. I liked both performances. I was kind of down with both. I can't choose, Matt. Any of those. Do you have a preference? I'm up for any.
I guess. Well, I like the Pit. I think the Pit's a great movie.
I think the Pit is probably objectively the best film.
I also like The Experiment.
Yeah, I like. Which is the Experiment, the one with the rocket returning to Earth. Mm-hmm. I really love the sequel as well. Yeah, the one that properly feels like a Doctor Who episode. That one.
Yeah.
With the goo monster, the goo aliens.
Aliens, yeah.
There's that horrible scene when the guy falls into the vat and he comes out and he's all fucked up. I always feel like if they remade that, it would be really horrific now.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, I'm up for The Experiment. Why not start at the start?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Yeah, Quatermass Experiment works for me.
Okay then.
I actually started watching that not so long ago.
Cool.
I think I fell asleep because I've seen it so many times. Like I put it on. Sometimes I put a movie on just to fall asleep because I've seen this movie 1,000 times. It's fine. Yeah, I'm up for that. Let's do the Quatermass Experiment.
Brilliant.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Cool. Well, that's it from us. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next time.